So here's a name, From the Edge, or
Leadership
from the outside. Outside in, something short,
Yeah,
snappy.
yeah.
Outside in, leadership on the edge.
Not leadership on the edge. Leaders on the edge.
Leaders on the edge of a nervous
That's not us anymore.
It sounds very nervous.
But that mission is bringing leaders back from the edge, leading them away from feeling like they're
Ridge, falling over.
Yes.
I was just thinking about a great segue from leadership on the edge. It's exactly the topic that we chose to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk email that actually, Zaf, do you want to share? Because you're the one that proposed the idea. Do you want to explain what the top
Yeah, so in the news a few weeks ago when we read about Elon Musk driving this initiative with Doji to send emails to every federal employee asking them to list 5 things that they achieved that week, with the threat hanging over them that they'd be fired if they didn't answer the email.
Yeah.
So it struck me as a very extreme kind of leadership.
On the edge.
On definitely on one end of a polarity, and it seemed like an interesting thing to do, to look at this and say, is there actually anything positive about something that seems like such an extreme position?
Yeah.
And so that was the thinking that went behind me bringing it as an idea.
Yeah, and I think it's a great to start. Maybe the first question would be something along the lines of, what was the problem that he was trying to solve?
A very real problem.
Yeah,
I think. Right, we've all worked in big corporates ourselves. It's a couple of perspectives. One is that leadership. Certain leaders believe no one's working hard enough and no one's doing enough. So maybe it was driven from that, but. Definitely what I see is people stuck and nowhere near as productive as they could be because they're stuck, because they don't know how to work with each other, because they don't have clarity to move forward. And one of the things I studied and did my master's dissertation on is inertia in organizations, because it's so prevalent. And since I started my business and I'm speaking to leaders in every industry, different countries, employees, not just leaders, everybody is resonating with this problem that we're just stuck and we're not being productive. So to your point, he's right. I don't doubt that there is a lot of waste happening right now in the American government organizations. I guess the real question is, how do you go about finding that and rooting it out without destroying people's lives and necessary important work at the same time, because it's such a big sledgehammer.
So it could be waste. That's one of the things that going after waste is a positive thing that he perhaps is trying to do. We don't know his exact motivations. There's a sense also that, as well as waste, there's also just the general stuckness that comes with bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It's the slowness of getting things done. It is also, are you doing the right thing?
Yeah.
It's the inefficiencies of how organizations in general are set up that somehow minimizes collaboration and maximizes siloed thinking. So all of these things, potentially are valuable things to root out in an organization and look at.
Yeah, and you have inefficient processes, you have also regulations that you need to adhere to, and sometimes those take time. And then can you root out the inefficiencies on that process as well, on those particular areas?
I think what he's trying to do, and I can't speak for him obviously, but I think what is really good is it's highlighting issues and problems, which is what has already been said, right? Inefficiencies, poor processes and all, cutting out the fat. And that's also being done in a lot of corporations, big corporations that we've seen, right? That have been running for hundreds of years. So the question now becomes, so I appreciate the fact that this question or this email, this memo that he's doing is good because it's making people think.
Yeah.
I think the issue here is how he's doing it and the impact in which he's doing it. And what is a wiser, more skillful way of executing this? And inevitably, people are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Whichever way we're going to do it.
Yeah.
The question then becomes, what is the most humanistic way to do it?
Yeah.
And is there such a thing when it comes to such massive changes and transformation?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. Look, tackling that for the government of any country is not a small problem, and there's many aspects to consider, but there are companies that do this transformation and do it in a human way that also improves the outcomes for the organization, right? If you look at Hire, I don't know if I'm saying it right, the Chinese manufacturer, and the way that person that took it over has had such a visionary way of transforming, removing the fat and enabling autonomy, still with competition, with incredible results, but has actually done it in a really human way that allows people to step up, feel proud of their work, be motivated to remove the fat because they get benefits from it too. So there are certainly the cases out there that you can do it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think I want to emphasize at this point that I believe whatever he's actually trying to do isn't about eliminating waste. You know, but this is a bit of performance theatre. You know, and because if he was really serious about eliminating waste, then doing it in this manner would be probably one of the worst ways you can do it, because you're going to taking such a blunt approach means you're not discriminating between what's valuable and what isn't.
Or you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly.
Right? Isn't that? Yeah.
And it's not something that's done in such a quick fashion either. You know, if you really want to address this problem, you there's a value in looking for what is actually the constraints in an organization that are slowing it down. You know, and getting to that root analysis of what's really the problem.
Is that an art or a science?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How so?
I think you can look at it from the point of view of processes and looking at, okay, so if you look end to end at how long it takes to do something.
Like a Lean Six Sigma kind of way of
from that
thinking.
perspective, you know, where is actually the sticking point?
Right.
You know, and you can also look at it from a humanistic point of view and a culture point of view. You know, what's making it difficult for people to collaborate? You know, what beliefs are in the system about how people should work and you know, how they should interact with other people. And you know, so that's more of the art part of it. And the process view is more of the science part of it.
Makes
but
sense.
I think both are valuable.
And there you go, right? There's the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the bringing those together that brings the real power of, there's the culture, but the processes and the system enforces that culture. We all know you can put the poster on the wall of what you want the culture to be, but it's going to be the behaviors that you see every day, and those behaviors are shaped by the processes in the system.
Yes.
How you incentivize people, how you structure your organization, all of that shapes both. You need to shift both together.
So where does Peter Drucker's, culture eats strategy for breakfast? Was it lunch? I can't remember. Right? Where does that come in then? Because that sounds like a polarity. That sounds like a this or that. So what we're talking about is and.
Yeah, and I've seen, look, my experience in the last 20, 30 years of doing this is every time I learn something new, I see something not working, I learn something new, I shift too far one way.
Like a pendulum.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I thought, well, rolling this agile thing out isn't working. The culture's the problem. We go focus on the culture.
Right.
And then I learned while doing that you need both. You can't just do the culture. The strategy will fail if the culture isn't there. The culture will fail if the strategy isn't there. And they all will fail unless you can come together and work in service of something that addresses both, and you're clear what that is and you can move towards it.
Yeah.
If I
It's,
may,
yeah.
sorry.
Carry on.
I would love to bring the issue back home a little bit, and I would love to hear your experiences. And if you've been in a client organization, on your organizations, that you experienced this extreme focus on results with the disregard for well-being, and how did that affect? Because I think that will bring home the idea that why this approach is bad. So how is your experience?
Yeah, I can start by sharing that. I was working in an organization where I was so highly motivated about the outcome that we were trying to create under. Maybe the end goal wasn't even fully clear, but we knew that we were working towards something that created results and a better place for people to work. And that was highly motivating for me. I stayed in the same role, and then the leadership changed and the intent changed, and it became all about results. Not even results, actually. It became all about cost cutting and shareholder results. So a kind of micro slice of what results can be for a company. And I stayed with it because I wanted to learn and explore and understand it more and see whether that really did drive an improvement, because we didn't have it perfect. What I actually saw was just a decimation of a culture, and so many people that were really personally invested in improving this company just gone, and actually deliberately rooted out in service of trying to get more efficient. Like Elon Musk, I could see an
Sounds a bit
argument
like
where
that,
you think
yeah.
that that's a good idea, but in reality, you took out most of the people that were the most motivated to change and improve that organization. And if you had pointed them in service of something clearer, I think they would have been the change agents that would have executed on it even more quickly. What you were left with was a huge amount of people who just kept saying yes to the senior leaders and doing what, saying yes and giving them what they wanted to hear, but in actual fact, taking no action to change it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That was my experience, but it was a dramatic shift, and it created burnout significantly in a lot of people because they were so passionate and doing all their best and working really hard to try to get a result that no longer mattered.
Yeah.
And I think a way of looking at what happened there was there was a shift from focusing on impact to focusing on outcomes. And so in the earlier part, we were trying to create an impact, and even if it wasn't completely well defined, because we were working in the same organization, you could sense in many less fixed metrics, things were moving. There was a real shift happening.
Yep.
When the leadership changed and the focus shifted to hard metrics, for things which were hard to actually define with KPIs, then it became far, far less valuable. So I think in organizations in general, if we're talking about results, are we talking about metrics and productivity measures, or are we actually talking about value and impact? And which is not always easy to capture with metrics. And there is I think, in general, a sort of black and white thinking around this, that it's if you can't put a metric on it, then it's not valuable.
Yeah. And we explored that in our team work. Back to the polarities, I fully believe you can do both and focus on both, and even find a way to almost measure both, because there's the intrinsic qualitative. In fact, AI can really help us with that now, right? We can explore and make sense of and understand qualitative conversations and things that are being talked about in an organization in a way that becomes measurable through AI, and add it in along with your business measures. You can also measure customer and employee satisfaction, not with a number, but in a way that is still measurable. I think AI, interestingly, has the ability to make us much more human and bring those results together and
Nice.
show when you change this, your business results improve as well.
Yeah.
That's actually my mission. How do we change that conversation and get really clear on a better way of doing that?
You know, I wanted to double click on what you said earlier. When I coach leaders, especially senior leaders, in such an environment, the question that you have about looking at just outcomes rather than impact and value. And when I have these confidential conversations with these senior leaders, it breaks my heart. The stories that they share, the trauma and his trauma
Mm.
of the way they're being treated, the impact it has had, and the armor that they have to put on in such meetings so that they can just brace themselves and be in survival mode. And that's no way to wake up every morning to go to work. And it's plain painful just to witness human beings being treated that way, to allow themselves in that space. And then when you think about how, if the option of leaving is not so easy, it feels trapped. And that's painful. And I think all of us four here believe that work doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this way. And I think that's our message, right? That work, business doesn't have to be this way. And the saboteur in me goes, yeah, well, but, I'm just thinking about a male corporate person who, who's going, well, but the business world is like this. Like, no, it doesn't have to be this way. You can have this and this.
Yeah. And plenty of companies are proving it
Exactly.
around the world, right? I think the tragic tale is that a lot of the companies that are trying maybe don't fully understand or have the conviction and belief that it is possible. And then the shareholders pull them back extremely quickly to say, no, shareholder returns above all else. We control your company. We all look up when you work in a company and think the CEO has the power and the control, and they don't have the power and control. I'm not trying to steer away from politics, but Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, was challenged on an interview recently this week of, why are you bringing Donald Trump over for a state visit to the UK, given what he's doing and this impact he's having on people? Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister of an extremely, of a powerful country, yet he doesn't have the power to make those decisions either. Well, he could, but he has their expectations around him that he needs to behave a certain way, and it takes an incredibly courageous person to break out of that.
Yeah.
So if that's true for him, it's certainly true for CEOs with shareholders and then the managers at every level below them. That crap just rolls downhill. And it takes courageous people to change it, or a movement of
many people,
enough people standing up and saying, hey,
enough's
it
enough.
doesn't need to be this way.
Yeah, there's this, going back to the stakeholders pulling organizations in certain directions, right? I'm very into sustainability and the sustainability effort, and you always hear about triple bottom line, which is nothing new, and you have big corporations out there nowadays. There is this movement that have already acknowledged that it's a problem to focus only on the capital gains and into, okay, how about people and planet and in the other parts of our culture? And unfortunately, and I'm maybe going off track here, but unfortunately, society still views success. There's only one metric.
Yeah.
And that's how much money you're making.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so counterintuitive to the facts that are out there. The message I'm using with a lot of my clients right now is around the S&P 500. And Jonathan Smart talks a lot about this, that 30 years ago, the average company stayed on the S&P 500 for around 30 years. Right now, the average is 13 years.
Wow.
And every decade, 50% of companies are getting replaced, and that's accelerating. So the companies that used to be successful and focused on the financials are not succeeding anymore, actually. The disruptors and other people are coming through for a variety of reasons. But we consistently see these old successful organizations that used to be at the top of their game drop so fast.
I do believe, and this is my hypothesis, I have nothing to back this up. I do believe, though, that we are in that transition period where we're moving from what, Taylorism and industrialism and all that sort of thing into the space. And we're still unpacking our moving boxes from one house to another. And I just believe that there's going to be awkwardness, like, where's my teacup? And you're trying to make some tea, right? And we're just in that phase. And my hope, my desire, my wish is that by the time my children come into the corporate world, there will be this shift where we're closer to unpacking those boxes, giving more weight to the hires of the world, the teal organizations, and hopefully there'll be more acceptance. And I think that given the speed of change, it will come closer and faster than what it was before. At least that's my hope, my wish, my vision.
I think we're in that transition period
Already, right?
but we're in a kind of going backwards part. There's a reaction to new ways of working. The agile movement has kind of stalled somewhat, and companies have shifted back towards being more controlling and less focus on sustainability and humanistic approaches to how you create an organization. The ironic thing is, it seems to be a fact that the companies that do have that sustainability or humanistic lens are actually consistently profitable anyway.
Yes.
Interesting, right? And if you think about it from a pendulum perspective, with the two, and then with all the little balls in between, and you will inevitably have the pendulum effect where it goes tick tock,
Yes,
and you will have a to and froing, because that's just part of the way the material universe works, of toing and froing. So there'll be forward movement, there will be backward movements, but we would find some element of equilibrium somewhere, somehow, hopefully within the time frame that we are alive.
Yeah.
I do want to go explore the other side. The what if we impact everything and we went all in on the other side? How would that look like? Have you been in organizations like that? How what would be the benefits in doing that? And what would be the negatives?
By the other side, you mean the totally human
focus and well-being and
unicorns and rainbows and candy floss.
Unicorns.
Yeah. I think we explored that.
Yeah, we did.
In our team, the three of us were in a team together for a year, and we had an incredible space to explore what was possible and what did it mean.
Yeah.
And I've always been a very human-focused leader, at least inside. And I don't know that we could have done it any other way. I have no regrets about what we did. Quite the opposite. At the same time, we could have been more results-focused. And if we had, I believe we would have had more impact. We were so human-focused and in that mode of exploring that, given the nature of the organization we were in, we had less impact than we could have. And we did have a good impact, don't get me wrong. But to go over there and look at, it was amazing. It was an incredible place to be. We role modeled. People pulled us because they were so fascinated to learn more about how we worked and what was that magic they saw that they wanted to recreate. And I wish I had been able to see the benefits of this other side and bring them to a little bit together. That would have created the impact and value in a way that meant we could have shifted it for more people.
I think we needed to go through that transition in order to, we needed to crawl before we got up on our feet to walk. And that becomes even more impactful because we had gone through that lesson.
Yeah.
I think the switch we're talking about, to be truly humanistic and people focused as a central paradigm of how you work means reimagining entirely what an organization is. And the problem is, having been in a normal organization for our entire careers, it's very hard to imagine something that is radically different. And that's part of the problem. That's why we had to deprogram ourselves and try radically different things. And we made some progress in shifting, but it was still a journey. I think we were getting there to being able to hold both ends of that polarity.
I agree.
If we had a bit more time.
If we had a bit
Just
more,
a bit too late, right? Too late to make it stick in that wider sense. I love the people like corporate rebels out there who are really just exploring right at the extreme of that. Again, though, not just because it's nice. So many leaders who've been schooled in that hard knocks of finance and economics believe that that's just a nice thing to do, whereas corporate rebels are doing it very much in service of valuable companies, but breaking all the rules and not, challenge everything and redesign everything in a different way. That naturally empowers and enables humans to kind of achieve their potential in service of a company vision and make that really clear. What a great place to be.
Yeah.
The challenge is how hard that is for everyone else, and how, especially big organizations, to relearn, unlearn, relearn.
Yeah. I worked in an organization for about 2.5 years where they focused so much in culture. They were in the personal development space, and they attracted the kind of people they attracted to work. They wanted to work there because they believed the product, and the culture was so well known how much investment they had.
Yes.
Do you know Zappos?
Yeah.
The owner wrote that book, Delivering Happiness, and the HR team got trained in that philosophy. And I remember when I onboarded, it was the best onboard experience I've ever had.
In what way?
You feel welcomed, you get trained, you're like, this is what's going to happen, we'll take care of you. And I remember the culture was like everybody just getting to know each other. I would joke around that I would give an average of 8.4 hugs a day at work.
I wonder what the 0.4 hug was like.
But it was the culture like, oh, hey, hello, how are you doing? And it was, we were working on something that we believed together. And the investment wasn't the people, trainings and well-being, how the office was designed in order to attract not just new people, but to attract you to want to be there and collaborate with your colleagues.
Why did you leave? Sounds like heaven.
I got another opportunity, but but it was. I remember one thing that the founder said in one of the weekly meetings that really stuck with me, and I remember him mentioning, because we all had opportunities to be trained, to learn something new, and he was saying, I want you to learn new skills, to be so good in what you do that even if you leave the company, partner with us.
Yeah.
And then we can do even better things together. Nice. I'll be your first client.
It reminds me of a book I read called Karmic Management.
Oh.
Oh?
I read it.
Oh, good. Have you?
Yes.
Oh, what do you think?
The message is great, but the writing style, I could not.
Yeah, okay. But the message, right? Going back to the message, it reminds me of what you're saying, which is we are also interconnected, right? All of us are fundamentally linked in one form or another. And if you think about that, then if you want good business and profits and numbers and results, then you would want to also invest in your competitors.
Yeah.
And your suppliers and your employees and yourself. And so that in this case, right, even if you leave, you will still come back and partner.
Yeah.
And if you think about it from a perspective of life cycles, there's always life and there's death. So as a company would rise and be successful, so a company would fall. The question now is how much of that fall or the dip do you want to suffer? So inevitably, in the law of karma, you will rise and you will fall. You will fall. This is inevitable. You look at any stock price, any graph, it will be up and down. The question is, how can you make that down shallower and not go, right? And how can you go up real quick? And so this is one of the ways where you want to be able to partner with as many of your stakeholders so that your business will go up and it might go down, but then it'll go up again.
And in a way, partner even with your competition.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And not seeing them as a competition. And this was something that this founder also was saying. He did not see others as competitors, but as partners into elevating humanity.
Yeah.
And I remember the example he gave was how do you call that medical profession that they work with cancer? Ontologist. No, oncologist. Oncologist. Like if you ask them who is their competition, they'll say cancer.
Yeah.
Not like the other oncologist,
brand,
right?
yeah.
So that
makes sense.
That for me was messages that I got from that organization.
There was a word I learned when I started my own business. It popped up on LinkedIn of co-opetition, which I love, right? How do you collaborate with your competition? There's so much to be done. Exactly. And when you connect together, you raise each other up.
Yeah.
And that different view, that different mindset. Circling back to something we talked about earlier, there's an incredible book, The Theory of Everyone. I don't know if you've read it. It's really, really good. He's worked out how humans work. And to your point about why agile is now dipping and those ways of working seem to be falling down, it's the difference between scarcity and abundance and how you see the world. And human nature is that when you are feeling scarcity, which happened to the economy with COVID and that kind of shrinking of the economy, it triggered the scarcity mindset.
And fear, right?
Exactly. And when people and companies operate from that perspective and that view that there's not enough to go around, humans cannot collaborate. At that point, we hunker down and we protect ourselves, and that's our instinct. And when we can think from an abundant mindset, such as you were just describing, that, hey, there's enough to go around, not competition, we can lift each other up because there's plenty, which was maybe a few years before when the economy was going well, people had money to invest in training and trying out different things. You've got the headspace to experiment.
I think that's a great point. I'd like to actually pick up on that as well, because we've been talking about the different paradigm for companies, and it may seem to people listening that this sounds a bit idealistic. I'm just drawing back to this point about scarcity mindset, because I think it's actually inherent in the capitalist model of how a company runs.
Yes.
In the shareholder model. And I'm remembering something that one of my coaching clients said about how the company actually was designed to operate with anxious overachievers.
Ooh, say more.
And so she had this realization that everything in the company was actually optimized for people who were like that. So it would incentivize people to take ownership for things, so that they felt they could never let go. At the weekends, on holiday, they'd be checking their emails, exploiting their overachiever tendency and their anxiety.
So they hire people like that,
and they hire for that, and they reward for that.
Wow.
And it's such a powerful perspective on a story which is in society as well, that work shouldn't be fun. You should work hard. You should take responsibility and ownership. But somewhere the line got blurred. Like there stopped being a point where you could say, I'm done for the day. I've discharged my honest day's work. I can go home. I can switch my brain off.
that's the advent of technology.
Yeah.
Mm.
That you can take your computer home with you, that you have, the BlackBerry as it was, and then your phone, and you're always on. Whereas 20, 30 years before, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Or maybe you could take a file home, but there was a limit to the work that you could achieve by
Yes.
yourself at home with bits of paper. And technology blew that limit out.
Yes.
And just because we can work all those hours doesn't mean we should. And actually, society hasn't yet pinged back to decide what is reasonable.
Yes. And one point that is associated with this is the idea that every organization is performing exactly how it was designed to.
Yeah.
Except that they might not have been intentionally designed. And I think a lot of people I work with, managers, leaders, they don't see that quote unquote power of how you design your teams, you design the environment around you is going to influence the way people are, the way the teams perform, and so on.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you and that statement is if we can consciously and intentionally design the company and the workspaces and the people we want to work with, wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I would use the word how. There's so much focus on the what
Mm.
and maybe the who, but it's the how they interact
Yeah.
and how you design that interaction and the space for it.
Yeah.
Mm.
That gets missed and forgotten because we're
Yeah.
too busy with the what.
Mm.
And a quick example of this is, when managers come to their teams and like, be a team, work together, but then they reward individual performance.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
So that is,
Yeah, as a great example. And it's because they don't see the paradigm that they're in, the
Yeah.
story that they're in.
The system that they're in,
Yes.
because this is really systems thinking, is looking out and then looking at from a macro perspective how all of us and all these processes and people are interlinked and have a domino effect. So they just think of that section, which is maybe just you have to work as a team, like you say, right? But then but HR might not be having the processes and the systems to reward from a team perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And organizations have got so big and complex. It's so difficult to have all the conversations that you need to have to get that right.
Understandably so.
Yeah.
And hence we still have boxes that are unpacked
Yes.
in our semi-new home that and so my empathy, my heart also goes out to all those people who want to change but just feel, back to your point, stuck. Because they all want to change, they want something different, but they just feel stuck.
And what fascinates me about the clients and the people that I'm working with, exactly that. They all want the change. What's really fascinating is they think they're the only ones. Or, yes, I want to change, of course. I can't because all these other people aren't capable of change. And then they all tell the same story about each other. As I go around different teams, different departments, different leaders, I'm good. I want this change, but they don't. They'll never change. They can't do this. And the power comes when you bring them in a room, give them can we all agree that this is the outcome we're working towards? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Could we work together towards that outcome? Oh, yes. Okay, let's talk. It really is the clarity. It's giving people clarity.
Yeah.
Joining them together towards a common goal, and then talk more openly about how to achieve it. That doesn't take as long as people think it does, and it's so incredibly powerful.
Clarity, and I'll add to that, safety.
Yes.
Right, because we can give clarity, but then our don't feel, because all my clients who come to me and we have coaching, right? They just feel like as if it could be a perceived sense of unsafeness, or it could be a real threat.
Yes.
Either of which produce the same results of behavior, which is I don't feel safe to be seen, heard, and say anything otherwise, even though ironically everyone has the same thought of wanting the same shift or change. So on top of clarity, I would add safety to that quotient.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. And this is one of the points that I always try to drive with my clients, which is if you're not intentionally building psychological safety, you can pretty much guess that there is no psychological safety. And I think I remember I was in a department call, and back in COVID times, so like 30, 40 people on a call, no videos are on. And the first thing that the leader said was, "Oh, remember, this is a safe space." And it was obviously not. You cannot just say it and hope that it will happen. So it's a constant, intentionally working towards building that safety.
Yeah, it's the same. That reminds me of, leaders go, I don't understand. My door is always open and no one seems to come to me, but my door is always open for my staff, my team to come and talk to me, but no one seems to want to come. And kind of like, you could leave your door open, but if you don't give trust, because trust is give and take.
Yeah.
So if you don't give trust, then you're not going to get trust. So your door can be open and you'll have a nice breeze coming through, but that's as much as you're going to get,
Yeah.
No one's going to come talk to you.
Yeah.
I think, and it's very easy for us when we know psychological safety, we study it, we learn about it. There's still so many misconceptions of what it means.
Yeah.
It's not about being nice.
Yeah.
It isn't always nice.
Oh, I've witnessed this, right? Between the two of you.
You love to tell this story,
Yes,
Sharon,
I do.
of Zaf and I working through, but we had huge psychological safety as we were butting heads in meetings because we weren't threatened by it. Right? We were okay, and we knew, it took a few cycles, and we learned, I think, that it's okay to challenge and not agree, and it's never personal. It was always about the work.
Yes. The freedom to be able to challenge each other in the interests of something bigger, is actually the hallmark, I think, of real psychological safety.
Yeah.
That you can speak your mind, you can express what you really think, in a constructive way.
That was my first lesson in what true psychological safety was. Firsthand, like witnessing the two of you going off.
So we've mentioned it, but we've never talked about it. Tell us more, Sharon. How was that for you watching?
Yeah, so it was like again, I said, right? It was my first time, and I could feel myself tensing up watching the two of you and go on. And the story I was making up in my head, the story was, oh no, our perfect team, the harmony's shattered. Oh dear, oh my, where do I put myself? Oh, and then I realized, wait a second, this is not about two personalities and two people. Because what I learned from that, which is what you just articulated, Zeph, which is you felt so safe with each other that it's not about a personal attack. This is about something bigger, broader, wider than just two human beings hitting each other. And that was a huge lesson for me to realize, it's separate. It's not, don't take things personally.
Yeah.
Right? Part of the 4 agreements, don't take things personally. It's about something wider. And that is fundamentally true psychological safety, because we can come back and go, I still respect you. I still love you as a human being. I disagree with your points of view, but that's great, because then now we can build and create more from what I used to think. Now, it's my circle has expanded.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful to watch. Having said that, while experiencing it was nerve-wracking and horrible, because especially someone who I was going through a period of trying to figure out my place in the team. If I wasn't clued in, I would have been extremely far worse off in terms of awkward and nervous.
Were you new in the team when you saw that?
Yeah, relatively.
Yeah, and we were shaping it. I mean, one thing I believe is you cannot have true psychological safety in a team without the leader creating it deliberately and making sure that happens. You could have it in a pocket, but you wouldn't have it as a whole team. That was, as the leader of that team, it was really hard to go through that cycle of you're challenging me, which is where I started, right? Is that okay? That should you be allowed to challenge me as a leader? How do I react to that? Do I have to show strength? There were so much dialogue going through my mind of, well, you're older than me, you're male, do I have to stand and fight here? Or, just as we were building our relationship, all of that stuff go through your mind. Am I being a leader if I don't show strength? I had to work through all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's necessary, actually, for any team to go through a storming phase. I mean, in the Tuckman model, there's a storming phase that teams go through to get to the final performing stage. And that's about psychological safety, really. That's really it's an unavoidable stage to go through, and it will be uncomfortable.
And yet, because change is a constant and teams change all the time, what I have noticed in my team coaching space is that we go from forming to storming, and oops, there's a change in the team. We're back to norming again. And we're just doing that, bounce of forming, storming, and then oops, back. And we never get to the performing stage. And that gets problematic.
Yeah, I think and we did that in our team as well. People came in, people left. I think the way you hire into that team is a huge part of that. If you just throw someone in cold, that will make that very difficult as well.
Or where you have merged two teams together.
And it's not always in the leader's control.
Yeah.
And then you have your leader changing constantly as well. So that doesn't help in the forming, storming, norming stage.
If you have the mindset that everything should be fixed and controllable, deterministic, and if you can flow with that and not fight it or be disappointed by it, I think there's a key, a wisdom that has come to me over the years of saying, you can't stop that, you can't control it. How do you acknowledge it and then work with it? Which is, we changed our hiring practice to make sure that the person coming in had already met several members of the team, had actually heard that this is a team who really focuses on psychological safety and connection in service of the work, and talk about that really openly in the hiring process as well, so that when they're in, they have an expectation. And then for the team to acknowledge it has changed. And we have to recreate that connection with this new person, but it's intentional and it takes time and effort.
And that's the power of designing that environment, designing intentionally psychological safety, designing the culture, designing how we reward people, designing collaboration, everything, right? I wonder if we could just segue to the book you're reading, the new thing. Do you mention how?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't remember the full story, but it was like they were working so hard because they felt welcomed. And
so this is talking about in the 90s, companies like Netscape and the early startups in the .com boom, where people were working 120 hours a week, but not because anyone was requiring it as a standard or setting, like many CEOs today are setting these wildly unrealistic expectations, but actually because they wanted to, because they were invested in the belief of what they were doing was something that was going to change the world. And I mean, I think it's necessary to have psychological safety there as well. That it's an environment which is, you feel free to act in a way that is closest to your beliefs and to the mission that you're all sharing. But I think the other aspect of the psychological safety that's coming out from these kind of situations is the ability to ask for help. To be vulnerable. The absence of that, and this is something I see a lot, is in people who have this idea that the leader needs to always be strong.
Or be the expert.
And always be the expert.
Have all the answers.
Yes. And so it's, again, the overachiever mentality means these are the people who, when they're struggling because the environment is not safe, and it's lonely being a leader, there's no one, feel comfortable to say, oh, look, I'm struggling.
Oh, I don't know how
Or you
to.
don't know. And you're also programmed to say, well, I shouldn't ask for help. You know, I'm supposed to be the one who's strong.
Yeah.
But then the level of anxiety and so on just starts to escalate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get burnout very quickly.
Yeah.
And this seems to be an increasing feature of companies where an absence of safety and the culture is one that's very focused on visible results. People feel, unless they are always doing this all the time, that they've totally failed.
Yeah.
So that it perpetuates the cycle. So they push themselves harder, and they don't ask for help, and it gets worse and worse.
And the incentive system creates and reinforces that.
Yes.
Right? It just is from every angle. Some of the clients I are working with at the moment, it's the C-suite. The CEO brought me in saying, tell me which of my team members are not good enough. Like that was almost we're failing. And they were a company failing. And they're like, we believe these people here don't have the skills. Tell me which ones do and which ones don't. In just over 6 months, we've turned that around. The profits are consistently going up every month. We haven't changed a single person in the team. What we've changed is the system of the way that they work together, the way that they realize they're not individuals running departments. They are a leadership team running a company together, bringing their unique skills and experience together in combination that lifts up the team.
And there lies the crutch, right? Which is, how can we not see individuals as singular separate units, but as a whole interconnected systems, all serving one North Star?
And I think we do that quite well at junior levels. We talk about teams, but as you get to leadership, because of all the things we've talked about, the expectations, the system, that the leader is the one with all the answers, when you have a team of leaders is when you have to put a lot more effort in. My experience, I remember the first time I started to interact with C-suite people, and I came into a room and I was being asked to design a workshop for a COO and a CIO whose teams were, the organization was shifting and they needed to swap parts of their teams over. I was like, oh, exciting, amazing, can't wait. Like, first time I'm in a room at this level. And I was just shocked at the behavior that I saw, which was just pure egotism.
Me, myself, and I.
Yeah, and threat, and many other meetings since, that when you see that top level and you, especially as a more junior, you come in and you're like, oh, I'm really going to see how the organization works. And you walk out like, oh,
shocked and
no wonder we're
disappointed.
struggling so much. They can't talk to each other, and it's back to the fear scarcity mindset that they're all trying to pitch and show their place. Maybe they're all looking for that CEO top job, and they're fighting each other instead of helping each other be successful in service of the company goals. And that's the huge shift.
And it makes me wonder, is the current structure of organizations where it's a pyramid, right? The higher you go, the lesser the top chair is. Like, there are fewer chairs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And therefore, because of that, I'm going to compete.
Survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest, you down, me up. And therefore, the structure, the pay, the reward, recognition does not serve this us, we perspective.
Yeah. There was research into psychopathy and narcissism and dark triad psychological traits that showed that there was a high correlation between being a CEO or an executive and actually having psychopathic or narcissistic tendencies. And being psychopathic doesn't mean you kill people, by the way.
Only.
But you would get the same results on a personality test as someone who was actually
Wow.
Is it that the system filters out for this kind of personality?
This is having those traits is actually an advantage in that in this kind of system.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's something about the system that not always, but if you have those kind of traits, is actually going to be an advantage in thriving in that kind of system.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's all about design.
Yep.
And I think if you have an expectation from the top that these kind of traits are not to be rewarded, and action and role modeling from the top, then you can change that.
Yeah.
You know, but I've so often seen the situation, unfortunately, where the company will say, well, we have these values of, you know, respect, trust, and so forth. But the actual behaviors of the people at the top don't quite align with that.
Yeah.
And there's no one to hold them accountable to that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, unfortunately, it's just theatre again.
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about theatre.
Yeah.
And I'm just imagining some CEO watching this going, you know, easy for you guys to say. You know, you're not in the thick of it. You're not under the pressure of left, right, center, and all of that, right? Yeah, you guys are in a nice little room and you guys can talk about it that way.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality.
Okay, I want to segue that and exactly enter the topic of, what leaders should do. How we talked about focusing too much on results and focusing on culture. And we talked about polarity a few times, right? And just to give a quick definition of polarity being a situation where if you focus on one side, you might be defocusing. Is that a word? Defocusing on the other side. And if you move the dial to the other side, you might be not focusing on the other side. So having this natural polarity of focusing on results and focusing on people, focusing on culture, how do we play with that?
Yeah, I'm loving polarities. I think I was doing it and then I've discovered the concept recently, and it's fascinating that the benefit you get from this and this and the ability to move up and down the scale at the right time, depending what you need. Going back to hire, I think that's a great example of a CEO with a very clear vision that he didn't want this system, that survival of the fittest.
What was that?
Hire.
H-A-I-E-R, I think.
Yes, H-A-I-E-R, Chinese appliance company. They now own GE. So it started as a smaller Chinese company that was struggling, and this guy took CEO. He's now, they're now huge, and they own the American company that was one of the top companies in the whole of America, has now been bought by this company, and they're adapting and adopting the hire model. Even the way that's being done is being done in a way that shows the CEO is so true and clear on his vision of how you work. But to the point, instead of hierarchical departments playing off against each other, the way they run is every single team and department is its own company within the group, and they sell services to others. So even HR, for example, they don't have an HR department as such that tells everyone what to do. They may have multiple, and those can create a service and offer it to the rest of the organization, who may choose to enter into a contract with them and buy it. So it's a full kind of market economy going on within the group of the organization.
Like teal?
Yeah, similar,
Something
not
like that.
fully. It is a unique way, but if you read the Corporate Rebels book, they explain there's 4 different ways of you could structure your company that would challenge or be an alternative to the traditional hierarchy.
Yeah.
So I think, look, not every company can get there. I think it's fascinating that we have examples of hugely successful companies that are doing a completely different model. That's not for everyone.
Yeah.
There are, though, small steps that other leaders can take that will start to change things. And I think it's good to explore both.
And I'll come at this from a slightly different angle. They did surveys of executives say, you know, what's the value of your culture to the success of the company? And people would say, okay, no, it's really important. And what about your strategy? You know, oh yes, that's really important too. So, okay, so how much time do you spend defining your strategy? That's pretty much 90% of our time is thinking about that.
Mm.
How much time do you spend on your culture? Almost zero.
Mm.
So I think there is an awareness, but there's maybe just an ingrained habit for CEOs and leaders to think, okay, I need to focus on the strategy and
Yeah.
the execution and the goals.
Yeah.
And there is very much a polarity here that you can have both.
Yes.
It's not an either or,
Yes.
you know, that if you focus too much on one, you suffer the consequences of not focusing on the other.
Yeah.
That's a design, back to design.
Yeah.
If you have an HR part of your organization and a strategy part of your organization and a finance team, and they are operating with leaders who battle each other for favor from the CEO,
Yeah.
then you naturally can't bring them together. The polarity exists when you can create a leadership team at the top level who feel like they are one team in service of the goals for the organization.
Yes.
And ask each other for help and support and you know, adjust what they do in service of a common set of goals or outcomes for that organization. That's one way.
I wanted to add one thing about your comment on strategy, because one organization I was working with, they thought they spent a lot of time in strategy, but they were actually solving problems on the tactics side, operations.
Different.
Yes.
Yeah. So they were not even culture, not even strategy. They were
Tactical.
tactical side.
Mm.
So there's even
Yeah.
one extra layer to go up to.
We talked a lot about the doing of the leader. And, just to add on to what you're both saying already, which is about the being of the leader. So we talked about how you would have to be a leader that is clear, is intentional and consciously, intentionally designing the organization and the type of organization you want to have and be in. And that requires this leader to be absolutely courageous and clear, not just for the organization, but clear for the person, the leader, him or her, to say, this is what I want and this is what I stand for. And that sometimes when you're in a hegemony of a completely different space, it can be quite daunting to be able to hold that space and say, no, I want this. And I know there are lots of naysayers, and there's a force that says, no, you should be otherwise, whether it's share price, shareholders, investors, and all that, saying, no, you can't do it this way. And it requires that person to hold it with strength and courage to say, no, this is how it will be. And that's hard. And I want to hats off to all the leaders who've been able to go, this is how I want my company to look like, feel like, and be like, in spite of the forces against it.
One of the beliefs I used to have, or the assumptions I used to have, was that if you were the CEO, you could do anything. If
You got free pass.
you free pass. You could change anything. But even the CEO of a company is still part of a
bigger
story, a bigger narrative that's shaping, and it's got constraints, and it takes courage to step outside of those constraints and to do something different. It strikes me actually that when you look at CEOs of big companies, how similar they describe what they do and their lifestyles and their thinking and so on. It's like actually to be the rebel is still a very, very brave act. To say, okay, I'm going to look at this differently. I'm going to actually, step outside of the box that, CEOs and other people like me are in,
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to safety.
Safety.
Psychological safety for them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need it too.
Yeah, they need it possibly more than anyone, because when they have it, it will more naturally roll down into the organization.
Yeah. There's also a sense of trusting themselves, trusting their vision, trusting that this is going to turn out all right. And then there's an element of belonging as well. The sense that there is a need to feel belonged. And that's about psychological safety as well. Like, am I in the in crowd or the out crowd? Do I belong to this tribe or this group of people or this community? And so there's this element, and the higher you go on the pyramid, the less there are, right? Like you said. And do I feel belonged? Will I be accepted?
Yeah.
And the rebel will have still an element of that, but has more of the I don't need to be belonged, to feel belonged.
I want to go back to, the question of, okay, leaders listening to this, okay, how do I use this idea of polarity to do both sides of the equation, right? And to mention Barry Johnson, who wrote the book on polarity management, right? I want to use the word management, right? Because you cannot solve the polarity. If you have tough deadlines coming along, you might have to focus on delivering results. But then if you stay too long there, people might feel burned out and so on. So you have to go to the other side eventually. And if you stay too much on the other side, maybe you start not getting enough results. So it's a matter of looking at setting up systems and triggers and boundaries to know when you should move, when you should go to the other side, and understanding that you'll always be shifting. You'll never stay in one side. If you stay on one side, at first you get the benefits, but then you're going to get the negative side of not being on the other side.
Yeah.
Right. And looking back in my own career, when I was doing transformations, and with my thinking, I was going too much on the well-being and not thinking of we want new ways of working, focusing on culture. But then, like you mentioned in your own team, you're doing not focusing on results. I was doing the same thing. And I wish I knew this concept of polarity management on my last transformation, because that would be the first thing I would have done with all the C-level people. Okay, let's map both sides. Let's see where we want to be in both sides. Let's set up these boundaries, these systems, these triggers, so that we know we're focusing too much on one side and not the other.
Yeah.
That would be the first, if I could come back to my last one, I would have done this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It's the power of visibility, what you're saying. A way to shift how things are done is to see it. Until you can see it, it's very hard to do something with it.
Yeah.
That's true of work and Kanban boards, but it's also true of your balance. I think one of the things when we were doing the transformation was, okay, here's our portfolio of work. How much of that is innovative new stuff? How much of that is kind of keeping the lights on? How much of that is balancing risk in our portfolio? And actually, often the leaders look that 90% of the work is risk. The other bit's BAU, and we're not changing anything that's going to help our company move forward.
Nothing innovative.
Yeah. So just being able to see it allows you to then make a decision whether that's the right balance for you or not. So I think it can apply to what you're saying, whether it's, are we thinking about our culture and our strategy? What's the balance? How much time are we spending in each? It even comes to personal balance.
Yeah, I was about to just say that.
The work-life balance, this word that we hear of, you should have this perfect balance. Yeah, there is no perfect balance. It looks different for everybody. The important thing is to be aware of what yours is, what you need, and how do you shift it up and down the scale to achieve the things you're trying to.
So I was reflecting as you were talking about the continuum, and I was also thinking about, and there's sometimes in the life of the company or the organization where you might need to lend yourself closer to this end. And then there'll be some times where you're closer to that end because, circumstances, conditions are such that you need to focus here. And from a leader's perspective, it's knowing that and being okay to dial up or dial down, which is important from a macro perspective. And then from a micro perspective, what you're saying in my life, when will it be that I'll be super busy at work and I would not be as committed to my self-care or my family, but then also knowing that, I need to come back to this end. And it's that conscious and intentional knowing and self-awareness, which is key for any leader or any person for that matter to go, oh,
Yeah.
when does that, now I need to come back. Oh, wait, come back.
Yeah.
You know, always having that self-awareness.
So you were asking about triggers and things to look out for. So using that example of maybe the work-life balance, which is a polarity itself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
between work and life. I think anytime there is black and white thinking, either or catastrophizing, if this doesn't happen, then it's going to be the worst thing ever. Anytime you pick up a thought like that, that's a sign that the polarity is not being managed anymore, and you're falling too much towards one end. And so I think that, if you can create the awareness of your own thinking and the ability to notice when you have thoughts of those nature, then taking a conscious decision to go, okay, I can shift towards something more ambivalent. I can recognize that it's not black and white.
Yeah.
I can live with the uncertainty of not having absolute clarity all the time. But as human beings, we tend to desire, clear answers and clear, it's a deadline, so I have to kill myself to achieve it. Rather than questioning the deadline.
Yeah. Oh, that distinction between urgent and important.
Yes.
There's some of the you get taught these basic time management skills, but we forget them.
Yeah.
Everything is urgent all the time, right? Everyone expects if you're not responding now that you're not taking it seriously. And I think that shift of understanding this is truly urgent, and there genuinely are things that are urgent, but it's not everything. And if you operate at that level all the time, that's not sustainable either. You need to
It can even be really small things, like the situation where you're writing an email to a group of people, and it's only for like 5 lines, but it takes an hour because you think, what would this no, I have to be very careful about the wording this, and all of this is black and white thinking. It's if I don't get this email perfect and every nuance of it, then it's going to be a disaster. And actually letting go of this. Yes, okay, there's a certain amount you have to do to craft the message that you want to achieve. But so many people are overthinking because they're trapped in that kind of it's either or it's going to be a catastrophe.
Yeah. One topic that I really like is also about this is the difference of the meaning of the words efficiency and effectiveness.
Oh, yes.
We focus, especially corporations, focus so much on KPIs on efficiency, which is like doing the things with quality, doing the things with speed. But what about effectiveness? Are we building the right thing to begin with?
Yeah.
And I work with a lot of software engineering teams, and a lot of times they're given these deadlines, this scope, and the question can never be asked, is this even the right thing to do? How do we validate that? That decision was already made without even validating it.
And this is why companies like Hire and companies that have a more distributed model are more effective. Because in the traditional model, it's not your job to even ask that question.
Yeah.
You're assigned to a project, you don't question the project once it's started. Well, in that distributed model, you can always question that because you are in a sense an owner of the business as well. Everyone is.
Yes.
And I feel that it's the difference also between focusing on your role, focusing on your KPI and the outcome, the product, the value of your building.
Yes.
And I always use the analogy of a relay race, which is the first few runners, after they pass the baton, they still want their teams to win. They just go home, go to the bench, grab a coffee. Like, did we win? It doesn't matter, right? Which is how organizations treat our different teams nowadays. Like, do your own bit.
Your silo, right?
Your silo, and you're gonna be measured on a KPI. After that, it's good. Doesn't matter if the product succeeds, if the service is well implemented.
Well, that company I referred to earlier, where they were in crisis and really tanking, the way that we turned their results around was by giving them just 3 KPIs. They had 21 previously, divided by department and function. Seems very normal in most companies, right? Every department has its own KPIs, but it led them to different directions, to actually work against each other. Not intentionally, of course. They're not bad people trying to trip each other up. They just genuinely were incentivized and motivated towards something that was not coming together to improve the whole. Badly designed.
Yeah.
Just by giving them 3 less so they could actually focus on it and remember it, and then joining them up and reminding them every day with visual signals around the office, these are the things that you're going after.
And everyone's going after the same thing.
Yeah. So when one of them's struggling, it's everyone's job, not just the CIO, because the system isn't on, it really has changed.
There is some trend now to hire for skills instead of hiring for a role. Yeah, but I haven't seen that much yet.
I'm seeing organizations go towards it. It's a mentality that's propelled me through my career, actually. I've shifted from many different things. If you look at my job description, from cooking to software tester to design thinking to org psychology, I see the connection with all of it because it's the skills that have led me there. And
including cooking?
Yeah, we all need to eat.
Exactly.
Every team loves some
cooking.
cookies.
Cooking, right, as well. You need to know the sequence, what's to prep, the timing, and all of that.
There are skills I learned in my weekend job when I was 14 that are serving me and how I lead now and all that connection. And I see people so constrained by their role and their job description or the degree that they did in their profession. When that, and it's happening faster and faster, when that profession is no longer needed in an organization because of a change, then their whole identity is at threat. But actually, if you base your identity on your skills and believe you can create new skills, you've always got a path because you can always adapt and change.
And to add to that, also base your identity on your value and your purpose. Because it doesn't matter how you approach it, because you're still going for that purpose based on a compass of values in which it will guide you to that. So it doesn't, then your role or the job description doesn't matter anymore, because in 5 years' time we'll have new jobs that we would not know right now, right? So what's the point? And then just to constantly be upskilling, developing, learning, lifelong learning, that sort of thing, in order to, based on the purpose and values that you have and what you stand for and your identity, right back to what you're saying.
And I remember one word you used before, having the courage to take those values and design a structure, be it your team or the organization, that takes those into consideration, but not just words, right? In our example, we had values, but we don't follow them and really embody them.
Yeah.
And designing for the polarities, right? Do we want innovation, or we're thinking of long-term thinking? Because if you do too much innovation, then you might not be as safe in the long term. But if you focus only on the long term, you might not be innovating. Are you focusing on results right now, or well-being? Are we going to centralize our decisions, or are we going to decentralize our decisions? Those are all things that can be designed. The example you gave, like the decentralization of it's by design.
Yeah.
So having the leader with intention design those and design the environment around them.
This shift of identity from I am a role, I am an engineer, I'm a manager, I'm whatever, to I am a person with these skills is a very hard shift actually to make in reality. But it is one of the most powerful and liberating things that you can do for your own development and in life and your career. And I think it's a positive thing that more companies are starting to see this and starting to move away from less rigid job descriptions and roles, where you're constrained by, this is your official list of responsibilities, to actually starting to realize that you can leverage people's skills in different ways. But it has to, although there is an element that companies can support, it's still something that this one has to come from within. You have to let go of the story that I am something.
Yeah.
That's quite hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard because we as humans can't let go of something without replacing it with something else.
Yes.
Right? It's very difficult to make that leap until you can see what this other thing looks like. That's what holds us back all the time. The certainty that we were all, at our age at least, trained to expect and plan and create certainty. Yet we're in a world now where that's just not reality anymore. And you've got to be able to shift that. But we were taught, well, before you take a role, you get a job description and you should know exactly what's expected of you.
Yes. And when you were at school, you went to a careers advisor or something like that. And they said, so what are you going to be?
Yeah.
You know, here's the options, pick one. And you pick a degree to go down a certain path, you know.
I think this sits right smack in the box that hasn't been unpacked yet in the transition of moving houses. It's still kept pristine in its packing box.
And what if the skill that we teach is how to get clear expectations? Maybe this is just me. I realized when I was very stuck a few years ago that what I lacked was clarity. So where I procrastinated, where I couldn't see a step forward, there was no clarity for me of what I was trying to do and why. And actually, the work I do with teams and with leaders is clarity. It's about, you have an expectation, you have an expectation. Neither of you are talking about those. You're not surfacing them. You're making assumptions. And actually, the skill that we teach is how to get clarity, how to surface expectations, and how to negotiate and create agreements around how you then move forward.
I love what you just said, because right now my theme and what's coming up for me in my life is that clarity comes from experimentation of doing. So it's like you don't sit and wait for the skies to open, the angels to sing, and suddenly you get clarity in a nice packaged box. Clarity comes from experimenting, from doing, from taking action, from trying stuff. And only from that can you go, nah, that's not it. This is it. Or, yeah, maybe 2/3 of it is right, but maybe not that 1/3. And it's that trying that moves us forward. And that's what I'm currently learning in my life right now.
And that's exactly what we're doing right now.
Yes, exactly.
Trying our new podcast. Yeah, I think that's so key. It's not setting the perfect expectation and agreement. It's taking a step towards it, having a conversation, trying it, renegotiating when that's not okay, when it didn't work out, and the psychological safety, bringing it back to that, to be able to do that with a group of people.
Yeah.
Right? Or with the other departments or with your leadership team. How do you start to have that clearer conversation, renegotiate, adjust, learn, adjust, learn, adjust. Yeah. That's the only way to navigate in the world that's just changing around us now.
Yeah. I think we're getting towards the end of our conversation. Maybe we still have time, but what I would like to do, because I heard so many golden nuggets right now, and I want to go around the room and each of us share that advice or that lesson that you would tell our listeners, our leaders, that this is how you frame this polarity thinking. This is how you can design some kind of wisdom that you'd like to share as a closing circle.
I would want to jump in here. I think if there was one thing we could start doing in this space of ever-changing, super fast change, is to understand that leadership is self-leadership first. It starts with me, and then it ripples outwards. If I have no clarity, if I don't feel safe, if I don't create that safety, if I don't have the conscious and intention, if I don't even have self-awareness, it's going to have a ripple effect of unconscious, it's going to have a ripple effect, but it's not the ripple effect I want to achieve. And so for me, that key space is self-awareness first. Self-leadership must come first before all else.
And I deeply agree with that.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Next.
What she said.
You know, how you are is how you lead. And so the journey starts with that exploration of self. But on top of that, there's something about the importance of self-compassion as well. Because in the leaders I work with, there is so much negative self-talk. You know, they feel like failures all the time, often, because they're trapped inside a pattern of thinking and an environment that reinforces those patterns. So being able to step outside and, you know, look at the arena from a vantage point from above and go, actually, okay, maybe I don't have to struggle every day in this way. Maybe I've been pushing my energies in the wrong direction. And, you know, in my own life, that was the moment that things started to shift, was the moment I could start to do that. And I think I woke up one morning and realized probably 80% of what I did was simply opposing, confronting, pushing against other people, and they will push back. And it just seemed like a huge waste of time. And that moment of clarity started the process of questioning. And I could eventually have some compassion for myself, saying I hadn't done anything wrong. I was just following the script that I believed was, you know, the story.
Was taught to you.
It's, you know, and recognizing that, okay, I can write my own script.
Why?
You know, and it took me time to work out what that would be, but then at least the process is starting. It starts with that questioning.
Yeah, I think that leads nicely. So yes, all important. And it feels too big and scary. And, you know, we read all these leadership books about these incredible leaders, and it's too big a leap. Just start with something small. That 2% model of just spend an hour this week trying to figure out something that would improve next week a little bit.
Yeah.
Just take one small step. It might feel scary to do all this stuff. Well, what is the safe thing that you could do? Who's that one person that you do have a connection and feel safe with? Go have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Just find something small that will start your journey, because it's that first step that is so key to changing it and giving you that freedom. You're sat here right now feeling, I wish it was like this, but it's too distant, too hard from my reality. No, we've all been there. And the first step is the most important.
One starfish at a time. One starfish at a time.
Yeah. For me, I started my career as a software engineer, and it's very true in this industry that you get promoted into a lead position because you're good in what you do, as you should be. But a lot of times, when you get into that position where maybe you're still doing technical activities, you're still an individual contributor, but you also have a team, or you moved into that position that you're only leading. But coming from a technical background, we don't have those skills. At least we're never being taught those skills of how to lead. So a lot of times people get into that position because they're good in what they do, but now they're leading a team of 5 people, 10 people. And it's not just software engineering, marketing, sales, all those teams, they suffer from the same thing. Are we supporting the leaders we are promoting with skills other than the technical part? And I think that's a lot of times when somebody has had an experience with bad management or something, I feel that the problem is even higher. It's like, okay, yes, let's promote people that are demonstrating good technical skills, but let's give them support that they need.
Yeah. At that first stage, which actually many companies are getting better at acknowledging, we need to train first-time leaders. And then there's the gap of the people that didn't get that training and didn't get that input many years ago and are 20 years into their leadership career and really floundering.
Yeah.
Because they just kept going through their wits, you know?
Yeah.
But with the change going on around the world, it's just they're overwhelmed and they can't take it forward. So, yeah, what's that small step as a leader you can do to intentionally lead?
Yeah.
And start building your skills in that.
Unfortunately, I'm looking at the clock, and I gotta say, I just love this conversation.